Now, what is Nagasaki's shield, coat of arms, so to speak? Well, it's a red pentagram on a white background. In other words, a bloody star. And the number 5 symbolized right there. As for Hiroshima, that one has like 3 waves. So there's the number 3. Remember, numbers 5, oops, and 3. Okay? Important numbers. So, we have the first nuclear bomb, and this one has sealed the fate of World War II, and has set in motion this crazy arms race that is going to pull mankind along a direction of fear, the fear of that nuclear conflict that could annihilate all human life, or at least the entire human civilization. And the idea of the Illuminati was, of course, to funnel this energy of fear in such a way that mankind would eventually accept more and more global governance as the only safeguard against a war that had become too horrible to contemplate. Okay, so now we have the post-war years, and we have 1947. And in this year, we have this Chinese fellow we've mentioned, Hsue-Shen Tsien, who was then at MIT, and he made a study on nuclear rocket propulsion. Fast forward to 1958. Now, one has to know that for the Illuminati, only the last 2 digits of the year count. Or actually, they count independently. They have an independent subliminal power. So 1958 is actually 58. And you have 5, 8, 5 plus 8, number 13. And then, of course, the reason for that is that when you say 1958, sometimes you just mean 58 in the year 58, and it's understood within the context of that century. So, and in this year, you have Ted Taylor and Freeman Dyson, a famous Freeman Dyson, and they put together the concept of a nuclear spaceship that would work by detonating nuclear or thermonuclear pulses out the rear end of the spaceship, and the push, the blast from the explosions would be collected by an aluminum plate. By the way, the atomic number of aluminum is 13. And a steel plate. As the spaceship then moved forward. And this project came to be called the Orion project. Now, the name of Orion is extremely important because, not only because there is talk that the early evolution of humankind may have been tampered with by ET races from Orion, but also because Orion is this mythological concept. And just remember, you have the energy of Orion and the thermonuclear energy of the stars. Once again, this whole idea of using the energy that can destroy all life on Earth, the energy of the nucleus, now to power humankind onto the stars peacefully. It's the same symbolism over and over and over again that they're using there. Now, Project Orion, only very briefly, stayed on course after being launched from the launch pad. It barely made it outside the launch pad because the nuclear test, the partial test ban treaty, was to put an end to it. Okay, so now, before we get on to the meat of 2001: A Space Odyssey, we have to understand that 2001: A Space Odyssey is a reference to events that I would say most likely did happen. And so it's not just a tremendous allegorical parable with tremendous symbolism, but it is also telling you right in your face, with some variations, what the real secret space program actually found. And these are some of the most famous characters in science, planetary science, and space exploration that we're familiar with, and who out in the open, have pushed the idea that, UFOs don't exist, and there isn't enough evidence to just show me one UFO. I haven't seen one. There is not convincing evidence. The same people who are pushing out all that bullshit, I have found out, are people who, well, there will be some exceptions, but most of these characters appear, and they seem to be connected, and they seem to have secretly worked on this parallel space program, which is really told in 2001 only just as fiction, so that you're supposed to think it's only fiction or a lie. And it might be fiction in the sense that it's got a story, but that doesn't mean it's a lie, and it's not referring to things that actually happened. We have now a good witness, and this is Dr. Richard Boylan, whose webpage you can go out and check, who says he's got an important source who tells him that Yuri Gagarin, the Russian cosmonaut, saw in 1961 a space beacon, which was not very different from the monolith that was to be portrayed in 2001. It was like a device left by a civilization that was supposed to emit a signal or serve as a beacon or guidance device of sorts. Now, apparently, the first American that was to make it officially to orbit, Alan Shepard, also saw the monolith. So now Apollo was a Greek sun god. Okay. Now the Apollo 8 astronauts who were to circle the moon, right? They're reported by radio uplink that they had spotted a black large monolith. Or actually they thought about reporting this, and Clarke says that this was only a joke, and that in the end discretion prevailed. But somehow, in the light of what Yuri Gagarin and Alan Shepard found, I am beginning to think that it was not meant to be exactly a joke. And okay, so Richard Boylan, or actually the source for Richard Boylan, says that Apollo 10 was then launched out in order to study this very mysterious space beacon that was named the monolith. And astronauts Cernan, Stafford, and Young went on and took snapshots or filmed the object from several angles. Now, this object was supposed to signal something, but unlike the seamless monolith in the movie 2001, the real deal here had kind of a message on it. So it was a combination of the monolith in 2001 and the message in Contact. And we'll get to Carl Sagan later on. It had also a map of an extraterrestrial civilization on it. And just remember, in the movie, the monolith was seamless, perfectly black, no features whatsoever. But in the novel, Clarke makes it a slab, if I remember well, a translucent slab, which displayed somehow images to activate the intelligence of the ape monkeys, the ape men. So, in other words, it made it display a message. Think about that.